Please, don't hurt me. I can't walk." The words barely rose above a whisper, trembling in the cold night air of the empty parking garage. They didn't sound like they belonged to a man who controlled a billion-dollar empire. They sounded like they belonged to someone small. Someone helpless. Someone who had finally realized that power meant nothing when you were alone and afraid. Before we go any further, take a second. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, in the idea that one small act of courage can change a life forever, then like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, comment where you're watching from, and subscribe to the channel for more stories that remind us what truly matters. Rain dripped from the concrete ceiling in slow, echoing taps. The luxury black sedan sat with its door wide open, engine still running. Inside, slumped awkwardly in the driver's seat, was Armin Halim, one of the youngest CEOs in the city, a man known for ruthless negotiations and headlines about corporate takeovers. Tonight, though, there were no cameras. No board members. No bodyguards. Just him. And the man standing a few feet away. Daniel Raza had only come to the garage to retrieve his old motorcycle after finishing a double shift at the hospital cafeteria. His shirt still smelled faintly of disinfectant and fried onions. His shoulders ached. His back throbbed. Being a single father to a 7-year-old daughter while juggling 2 jobs was not the life he had imagined, but it was the one he had embraced with quiet determination. He heard the crash before he saw the car. The sharp metallic scrape had cut through the silence, followed by the sickening thud of something hitting concrete. When Daniel rushed toward the sound, he found the expensive sedan tilted slightly against a pillar, its front bumper crushed. The driver's door was open, and inside, Armin Halim was gripping the steering wheel with shaking hands. Daniel recognized him instantly. Everyone did. The magazines in the hospital waiting area were full of his face. Armin's legs were pinned awkwardly under the dashboard, twisted at an unnatural angle. Pain had drained the color from his face. His phone lay shattered on the floor outside the car, just beyond his reach. When he looked up and saw Daniel approaching in worn jeans and scuffed boots, something primal flickered in his eyes, fear. "Please, don't hurt me. I can't walk." Daniel froze. For a moment, anger flashed through him, not at this broken man, but at everything he represented. Corporations like Armin's had shut down the factory where Daniel used to work. That closure had been the first domino in a chain of struggles: unemployment, debt, sleepless nights, and eventually the collapse of his marriage under financial strain. He could have walked away. No one would have blamed him. But Daniel saw something else in that car, not a CEO, not a billionaire, not a symbol of everything that had gone wrong in his life. He saw a human being in pain. He rushed forward. The next minutes were a blur of effort and adrenaline. Daniel braced his shoulders against the door frame and carefully maneuvered Armin's legs free, ignoring the groans of agony. He pulled him from the wreckage just before smoke began to curl from beneath the hood. The smell of burning rubber filled the garage. Daniel dragged him across the wet concrete, away from the vehicle, just as a small burst of flame ignited near the engine. His own arms trembled from the strain, but he didn't let go. When the sirens finally echoed down the ramp, Daniel was kneeling beside Armin, pressing his jacket against a bleeding gash on the man's forehead. In the ambulance's flashing red light, their worlds collided in silence. At the hospital, Daniel tried to slip away unnoticed. He had done what anyone decent would do. His daughter, Aisha, would be waiting at home with the neighbor who watched her during late shifts. He needed to get back before she started to worry. But a nurse caught his arm. "He's asking for you," she said softly. Daniel hesitated, then followed her down the sterile corridor. Armin lay in a private room, both legs heavily bandaged and suspended in traction. The doctors had confirmed spinal trauma. The prognosis was uncertain. He might walk again. He might not. His eyes found Daniel as he entered. There was no arrogance in them now. Only vulnerability. In the days that followed, something unexpected happened. Armin insisted that Daniel be updated on his condition. When Daniel resisted, saying he was nobody special, Armin corrected him with quiet intensity. "You're the reason I'm alive." Daniel brushed it off. He had bills to pay, lunches to pack, a daughter who needed help with math homework. Life didn't pause for miracles. But fate, it seemed, wasn't finished. 2 weeks later, Daniel received a letter delivered by courier. Inside was an invitation, not to a gala or a charity event, but to Armin's office. The letter was simple. I owe you more than thanks. Please allow me to repay the debt. Daniel almost tore it up. Pride and exhaustion warred inside him. He didn't want charity. He didn't want favors. Yet something urged him to go. The corporate headquarters towered above the city skyline like a monument to ambition. Daniel felt out of place in the polished lobby, acutely aware of his worn shoes against marble floors. Armin waited in a wheelchair near the window of his office, overlooking the very factories his company had once closed. I've had a lot of time to think, Armin began, his voice steadier now but still softer than before the accident. About what matters. About what I've ignored. The crash had not only broken his spine. It had shattered his illusions of invincibility. Lying helpless in that car had forced him to confront a truth he had avoided for years: success without humanity was hollow. He had looked into Daniel's eyes that night and seen no calculation, no resentment. Only compassion. Armin had ordered a full review of past corporate decisions. He learned about the factory closure. He saw Daniel's name in an old employee file. The weight of realization settled heavily on him. Over the next months, under Armin's direction, the company launched a community reinvestment initiative. The abandoned factory was repurchased and renovated, not as a profit-driven plant, but as a vocational training center offering free skills programs to displaced workers. Daniel was offered a management position there. At first, he refused. He didn't trust sudden generosity. He didn't want to be paraded as a symbol of redemption. But Armin met him without cameras, without press releases, and told him something that changed everything. I don't need you as a headline, he said quietly. I need you as a reminder. I need someone near me who won't let me forget what it feels like to be powerless. Daniel saw sincerity there, not perfection, but effort. He accepted. The transformation wasn't instant or magical. There were board members who resisted Armin's new direction. Shareholders who grumbled about profit margins. Critics who called it a publicity stunt. And Daniel faced his own battles: imposter syndrome, fear of failing, the constant pressure of balancing fatherhood with new responsibility. But slowly, change took root. Men and women who had once stood in unemployment lines began learning trades again. Welding sparks lit up the training floor. Sewing machines hummed. Computer labs buzzed with possibility. Daniel often brought Aisha to the center on weekends. She would sit in the corner with her coloring books, watching her father walk with a quiet pride she didn't fully understand but deeply felt. One afternoon, months later, Aisha asked him something that stopped him in his tracks. "Baba, are you friends with the man from the car?" Daniel thought about it. "Yes," he said finally. "I think we are." Armin still used a wheelchair, though therapy had restored limited movement. He visited the center regularly, not as a distant executive, but as someone who listened. He shook hands. He asked names. He funded scholarships quietly, without press. The night of the accident remained etched in both their memories, a turning point neither could have predicted. Power had once defined Armin. Survival had once defined Daniel. Now, purpose defined them both. And here's something important. If this story is touching your heart right now, take a moment to comment the word kindness below. Let's fill this space with a reminder that even in a world driven by power and money, compassion still matters. Years later, the training center became a model replicated in other cities. It wasn't perfect. There were setbacks, financial risks, moments of doubt. But it stood as proof that redemption is possible when pride is set aside. On the anniversary of the accident, Armin and Daniel stood together in the once empty parking garage, now renovated and brightly lit. They didn't speak much about that night anymore. They didn't need to. Armin looked at the concrete floor where he had once whispered in fear, believing the man approaching him might do harm. Instead, that man had carried him to safety. "I was afraid of the wrong thing," Armin admitted quietly. "I thought I needed protection from others. I didn't realize I needed protection from becoming someone without a heart." Daniel placed a steady hand on the back of the wheelchair. "We all fall," he said. "Some of us just get a second chance to stand differently." As they left the garage, the city lights flickered on, casting a warm glow across the skyline. Because sometimes, the most powerful transformations don't begin in boardrooms or headlines. They begin in the quiet moment when one human chooses to help another, even when the world has given him every reason not to. And if this story moved you, if it reminded you that compassion can rewrite destinies, Please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe for more stories that inspire. Your engagement helps these messages reach hearts that may be standing at their own turning points. In the end, a frightened whisper in a dark garage became the foundation of something far greater than wealth. It became proof that kindness can change everything.